The snap came twice, sharp and deliberate, right next to my left ear. I didn't flinch. My fingers kept moving across the keyboard, finalizing load calculations for the pharmaceutical-grade cooling system that kept $30 million worth of biosamples from turning into expensive garbage. The snap came again, louder this time, accompanied by an exaggerated sigh. "Hello? Earth to tech support." I saved my work before looking up. Standing over me was Justin Wade, 26 years old, wearing a cashmere sweater in a laboratory building and holding his phone like it was a weapon. His uncle owned Crestview Biotech. That single fact had gotten him an executive title, a corner office, and apparently the belief that he could treat people however he wanted. I met his eyes without expression. "Can I help you with something?" He waved his phone in my face. "The Wi-Fi in the executive lounge isn't working. Fix it." I blinked once. "I'm not IT support." His face twisted like I'd just told him the earth was flat. "What?" "I'm not IT support," I repeated, my voice level. "I'm Madison Blake, the Master Systems Engineer for Climate Control Infrastructure. I'm currently reviewing the Phase 3 expansion for the cryogenic storage wing." He leaned against my desk, knocking over my coffee mug. Lukewarm coffee spread across papers I'd been annotating for 3 days. I watched it soak into diagrams worth thousands of hours of work. "I don't care what your title is," Justin said, smiling like he'd just made a clever joke. "You work with computers. The Wi-Fi is broken. Do your job." I stood slowly, pulled paper towels from my drawer, and began blotting coffee from my schematics. My hands were steady. My voice was steadier. "The IT department is on the 3rd floor. They handle network connectivity. I handle environmental control systems. 2 completely different specializations." Justin's smile disappeared. "Are you seriously arguing with me right now?" "I'm explaining the organizational structure." "You know what?" He straightened up, voice rising. "I don't have time for this attitude. You're difficult, you're uncooperative, and honestly I don't even know why you're here. You're fired. Get out." I looked at him for a long moment. Not shocked, not angry. Just done. I closed my laptop with a soft click, gathered the coffee-stained documents, and slid them into my messenger bag. On the table between us sat a leather portfolio containing the signed expansion contract, the one I'd spent 8 months negotiating. The one that guaranteed another 3 years of infrastructure development worth $42 million. I left it right where it was. Without saying another word, I walked out of the laboratory building. The autumn air hit my face, crisp and clean. My chest didn't feel tight. My hands didn't shake. I'd built their entire climate control network from the ground up, designed every failsafe, programmed every override. And this man had snapped his fingers at me like I was furniture. I crossed the parking lot at a measured pace, got into my car and drove exactly 3 blocks to a cafe with large windows facing the Crestview building. I ordered black coffee and a scone, sat down at a table by the glass and opened my laptop. My access credentials were still active. They would be for another 14 hours until the automatic system handshake protocol ran its weekly authentication cycle. After that, without my signature on the renewal contract, everything would revert to baseline operations. 23 minutes later, I saw Derek Paulson's car pull into the Crestview lot. He was the director of operations, the man who'd hired me, and the only person in that building who understood what I actually did. He was carrying a bottle of champagne and a box of cupcakes. We were supposed to celebrate the contract signing today. I watched him walk into the building, still smiling. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the conference room, I could see Justin and 2 other executives. One of them was tossing a stress ball. Justin caught it and took a bow. They were laughing. Derek walked in, saw the champagne bottle on the table, looked around. His smile faded. He said something. Justin responded, then made an exaggerated gesture, mimicking someone typing on a keyboard. Then he snapped his fingers twice. Derek went very still. He turned, looking for the contract portfolio. Found it, unopened, on the side table where I'd left it. He picked it up slowly like it might explode. Then he looked back at Justin and said something that made Justin's smile falter. Derek walked out of the conference room so fast he almost knocked over a chair. My phone rang. "Tell me you're joking," Derek said without preamble. "I'm not." "He fired you?" "Technically I left." He made his preference clear. "Madison, you're the infrastructure architect. You own the climate systems. You designed every single environmental control in that building. I'm aware. And he thought you were, Derek's voice cracked. He told me you worked in IT support. He wasn't interested in clarification. I heard him take a long breath. Through the window I could see him pacing in the parking lot, one hand pressed to his forehead. The contract, he said finally. Still on the table. Unsigned. Jesus Christ. His uncle is going to lose his mind. Not my problem anymore, Derek. He was quiet for several seconds. You built this place from scratch. 2 years of work. The cryogenic systems, the automated monitoring, the emergency protocols, everything. Without you, they can't even adjust the temperature in the storage units. Then they should have treated me with basic respect. He didn't argue. Couldn't argue. We both knew how this was going to end. Are you coming back? He asked quietly. To sign the contract? No. Madison. He snapped his fingers at me, Derek. Twice. Called me tech support. Spilled coffee on 3 days of work and told me to fix his Wi-Fi. Then fired me for explaining that wasn't my job. Why exactly would I come back? Silence on the other end. Then, you're right. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know you are. But sorry doesn't undo it. I ended the call and took a long sip of coffee. It was good coffee, better than the break room stuff at Crestview. Through the window I watched Derek walk back inside. Justin was still in the conference room, now scrolling through his phone. He had no idea what he'd just done. But he was about to learn. I didn't go home. I drove to a small office park on the east side of town, parked in front of a modest brick building and walked inside. The receptionist recognized me immediately. Miss Blake. We weren't expecting you until next week. Change of plans. Is Dr. Winters available? Let me check. 60 seconds later, I was sitting across from Dr. Amanda Winters, Chief Science Officer of Helios Research Labs. We'd been in preliminary discussions for months about a potential collaboration. She'd wanted to bring me on as a consultant for their new genomics facility. I'd been hesitant because of my Crestview contract. That was no longer an issue. I'm ready to move forward, I told her. Full infrastructure design, implementation and long-term management. I can start immediately. Dr. Winters looked surprised, then pleased. What changed? My previous contract ended unexpectedly. The timeline opened up. She didn't ask for details. Just pulled out a contract template and started filling in terms. By the time I left her office 90 minutes later, I had a signed agreement worth $68 million over 5 years, full creative control, and a team of 12 engineers who would actually listen when I spoke. I sat in my car and let myself smile. A real smile, not bitter, not smug. Just satisfied. Then I drove back to the cafe and ordered another coffee. At 4:30 p.m. my laptop chimed. System alert. The temperature in cryogenic storage unit 7 had increased by 0.3 degrees. Not dangerous yet, but trending wrong. The automated correction protocol tried to engage, but without my administrative override, it couldn't access the advanced cooling algorithms. Another alert. Storage unit 12, 0.5 degrees above optimal. Then unit 3. Then unit 19. I watched the alerts stack up like dominoes falling. The system was trying to compensate, but it was running on basic protocols now, the kind of stripped-down operation mode designed for emergencies. It could keep things from catastrophic failure, but it couldn't maintain the precision that pharmaceutical research required. At 5:15 Derek called again. The storage units are warming up. I know. I'm seeing the alerts. Can you fix it remotely? I could. But I don't work there anymore. Madison, please. We have $60 million in research samples in those units. If they degrade, then Justin should probably call IT support. Maybe they can fix his Wi-Fi and the cooling system. That was cruel. I knew it was cruel. But I'd spent 2 years of my life building something extraordinary, and a spoiled executive had thrown it away because he couldn't be bothered to learn anyone's actual job title. You're really going to let this happen? Derek asked quietly. I'm not letting anything happen. I was fired. I left. The contract expired. These are the consequences of his decision. His uncle lands tomorrow morning. Then I hope Justin has a good explanation ready. I ended the call and closed my laptop. By 6 p.m. the alerts had multiplied. 17 storage units showing temperature drift. The HVAC system in the East Wing running at 68% efficiency instead of the optimal 92%. The backup generators had kicked on twice due to power fluctuations that my load balancing protocols used to handle automatically. The building was falling apart in slow motion, and there was nothing anyone could do about it except wait for me to sign that contract. I wasn't going to. At 7:30 I got an email from Justin. Subject: urgent system failure. Body: climate control is malfunctioning. Need you back ASAP to fix. Can start tomorrow. No apology. No acknowledgement of what he'd done. Just an expectation that I would drop everything and save him from his own stupidity. I marked it as spam and deleted it. While you're listening, tell us which country you're watching from. By 8 p.m., the executive lounge Wi-Fi was probably working fine. The building's cooling system, however, was absolutely not. I could see it in the data streams still flowing through my monitoring software. Temperature curves trending upward across every zone. Humidity levels fluctuating. Air pressure differentials destabilizing. It wasn't catastrophic. Not yet. But give it another 12 hours and some very expensive research would be compromised. Give it 24 and they'd be looking at complete sample loss in the most sensitive units. I finished my coffee, paid my tab and drove home. That night I slept better than I had in months. Thursday morning I woke up at 7, made breakfast, did yoga on my back porch and checked my email. There were 47 messages from Crestview addresses. I deleted them without reading. At 8:15 Derek called. His uncle is here. They want to meet with you. I'm busy. Madison, please. Just come in and talk to them. Why? Because maybe we can fix this. There's nothing to fix, Derek. I was fired. The contract expired. I've moved on. To where? Helios Research Labs. Signed yesterday. 68 million over 5 years. Silence on the other end. Then quietly, good for you. Thank you. Will you at least take a meeting? Hear them out. I thought about it. Considered the satisfaction of watching Justin try to apologize. Considered the leverage I had right now with their building slowly failing and no one else qualified to fix it. Fine. 10 a.m. Conference room B. And Derek? I'm not signing anything. I'll tell them. At 9:45 I pulled into the Crestview parking lot. I'd dressed carefully. Tailored black pants, crisp white shirt, blazer that cost more than Justin's sweater. I looked like exactly what I was, a highly specialized professional who didn't need this job. The lobby was chaos. 2 technicians were arguing over a diagnostic readout. Someone from facilities was on the phone, speaking rapidly in technical jargon. Through the glass walls I could see researchers clustered around monitoring stations looking worried. I took the elevator to the 3rd floor. The conference room was already occupied. Derek sat at the far end of the table. Next to him was Ronald Wade, Justin's uncle and owner of Crestview Biotech. Expensive suit, silver hair, the kind of presence that came from decades of running companies. Across from them sat a woman I didn't recognize, probably legal counsel. And at the end of the table, looking significantly less confident than yesterday, was Justin. I walked in, set my bag on the table and remained standing. Ronald stood and extended his hand. Miss Blake. Thank you for coming. I shook his hand but didn't sit. You have 30 minutes. I understand there's been a significant misunderstanding. No misunderstanding. Your nephew fired me. I left. Pretty straightforward. Ronald glanced at Justin, who was staring at the table. Justin wasn't aware of your role in the organization. That's not my problem. He thought you were IT support. I corrected him. He chose not to listen. The lawyer cleared her throat. Miss Blake, we'd like to offer you reinstatement with. No. She blinked. You haven't heard the offer. Don't need to. I'm not interested in working here anymore. Ronald leaned forward. Miss Blake, I understand you're upset. What Justin did was inappropriate. But we're prepared to make this right. Name your terms. There are no terms. I've accepted a position elsewhere. We'll match it. Double it if necessary. I finally sat down, not because I was interested but because this conversation required eye contact. Mr. Wade, let me be very clear. This isn't about money. This is about respect. Your nephew treated me like I was invisible, spilled coffee on my work, refused to acknowledge my actual job function, and fired me when I explained the reality of the situation. The contract I spent 8 months negotiating is now void because of his actions. Why would I ever want to work here again? Justin finally spoke, his voice smaller than yesterday. I didn't know. I turned to look at him directly. You didn't ask. I thought. You didn't think. You assumed. You saw someone at a computer and decided they must be there to serve you. Did you ever once look at my badge? Read my title? Ask what I was working on? He said nothing. You snapped your fingers at me. Twice. Like I was a dog who wasn't paying attention. Do you do that to everyone or just the people you think are beneath you? His face flushed red. Ronald's expression had gone from diplomatic to angry, but I couldn't tell if he was angry at me or at his nephew. Miss Blake, Ronald said carefully, I apologize on behalf of my nephew and this company. What happened was unacceptable. But right now we have a crisis. $60 million in research is at risk. We need your help. You need my signature on a contract. There's a difference. Then what would it take for you to sign? I stood up, shouldered my bag and looked at all of them. Nothing. There's nothing you can offer me. I'm not interested in being employed by people who don't value expertise until they're facing disaster. You want to solve your crisis? Hire another engineer. There are plenty of qualified candidates. It'll take them about 6 months to learn your systems, assuming they can figure out my custom protocols. Good luck. I walked to the door. Wait, Ronald called. What about the samples? The research? I paused, hand on the doorknob. I told you. Hire someone else. There is no one else. You designed this system. It's proprietary. No one can replicate it without your documentation. Then you should have thought about that before your nephew decided I wasn't worth basic courtesy. I left. Behind me I heard raised voices, but I didn't turn around. I took the elevator down, walked across the lobby while confused staff watched, and got in my car. My phone rang before I'd even left the parking lot. Dirk. They're panicking, he said. I noticed. Ronald is talking about suing for breach of contract. I didn't breach anything. Justin terminated my employment. The contract became void the moment I was fired. Any lawyer will tell him that. The lawyer already did. She's explaining it to him now. Then I guess we're done here. Madison, I know you're angry. You have every right to be. But those samples represent years of work from hundreds of researchers. Cancer research. Alzheimer's trials. Gene therapy developments. If they're lost, then Crestview Biotech will have learned an expensive lesson about respecting their infrastructure team. He sighed. You're not wrong. I just wish it didn't have to be this way. So do I. But Justin made a choice. Now everyone gets to live with it. I ended the call and drove to Helios Labs. Dr. Winters was waiting with preliminary schematics for their new facility. We spent 4 hours going over specifications, discussing equipment needs, planning timeline milestones. It was engaging work, the kind of collaborative problem-solving I'd always loved. No one snapped their fingers at me. No one called me tech support. No one spilled coffee on my work and expected me to smile about it. At 3 p.m. I checked my monitoring feed one last time. The Crestview systems were deteriorating faster now. 18 storage units in warning status. 2 in critical. The building's environmental controls running at barely 60% efficiency. I closed the laptop and didn't check again. Friday morning I had 12 new voicemails from Crestview. I deleted them all without listening. My email inbox had 63 messages, including 3 from Ronald Wade's personal account. I marked them as spam. At 9 a.m. Derek texted me, they hired an emergency contractor, charging $50,000 a day just to assess the situation. I didn't respond. At noon another text, contractor says he needs 3 weeks minimum to understand the system architecture. Samples in units 4, 7 and 12 already compromised. I put my phone on silent. At 4 p.m. I was in a hardware store picking out paint samples for my home office when my phone rang for the 20th time. This time it wasn't Derek or Ronald. It was a number I didn't recognize with a New York area code. I answered. Madison Blake. Miss Blake, my name is Catherine Frost. I'm on the board of directors for Crestview Biotech. Do you have a few minutes? I set down the paint samples. I'm listening. I've spent the last 6 hours reviewing what happened this week. I've spoken with Derek Paulson, examined the employment records and read the termination documentation. I've also spoken with the emergency contractor currently attempting to salvage our climate systems. And it's clear that a significant injustice occurred. Justin Wade acted inappropriately and cost this company a valuable relationship. More importantly, he treated you with inexcusable disrespect. I waited. I want you to know that Justin is no longer employed by Crestview Biotech. That surprised me. You fired him? His uncle did this morning. Ronald takes full responsibility for putting someone unqualified into a position of authority. Justin's behavior was a symptom of poor leadership training and excessive privilege. That's been corrected. I appreciate you telling me, but it doesn't change anything. I understand. You've moved on. Helios Labs is fortunate to have you. But I wanted to ask one thing, not as a board member, but as someone who's worked in research for 30 years. What's that? The samples we're losing, they represent work from graduate students, postdocs, and junior researchers who had nothing to do with what happened to you. Some of them have spent years on these projects. Their careers are built on this data. I'm not asking you to come back. I'm asking if there's any way you'd be willing to consult, even briefly, to help us stabilize the critical units. We'll pay whatever rate you name. 1 day, 2 days, just enough to prevent total loss. I closed my eyes. She was right, and I hated that she was right. The samples weren't Justin's. They belonged to researchers who'd done nothing wrong. 1 day, I said finally. Tomorrow. I'll stabilize the critical units only. After that, you're on your own. And my rate is $75,000 for the day. Done. Thank you, Ms. Blake. Don't thank me yet. Saturday morning, I arrived at Crestview at 7 a.m. Derek met me in the lobby looking like he hadn't slept. Thank you for coming. I'm here for the researchers, not for you, and definitely not for this company. Let's be clear about that. Crystal clear. He led me to the Climate Control Center. The emergency contractor was there, a tired-looking man in his 50s with 3 assistants. He looked up when I walked in. You're Blake. I am. Thank God. I've been trying to reverse engineer your protocols for 2 days. It's like trying to read Sanskrit. That was intentional. Security feature. I sat down at the main terminal, entered my credentials, and watched the system come alive. Error messages flooded the screen. 12 critical units, 23 in warning status. System efficiency at 51%. How bad? The contractor asked. Bad. But survivable if we move fast. I spent the next 11 hours working without stopping. Override protocols, reroute cooling loops, rebalance power distribution, manually stabilize each critical unit. The contractor and his team watched, taking notes, occasionally asking questions I mostly ignored. By 6 p.m., all 12 critical units were stable. The warning status units were recovering. System efficiency had climbed back to 78%. That should hold for about 2 weeks, I told the contractor. After that, you'll need to implement permanent solutions. I've left documentation in the admin folder. Follow it exactly. He nodded, looking relieved and exhausted. You built something incredible here. I know. I logged out, stood up, and turned to Derek. We're done. Send the invoice to Catherine Frost's office. Madison, wait. No. I did what I came to do. The samples are safe. Anything beyond this is your problem. I walked out for the second time in 3 days. This time felt different. Not angry, not bitter. Just finished. Outside, the evening air was cool. Fall was settling in properly now, leaves turning gold and red. I got in my car, rolled down the windows, and drove home with the radio off, just thinking. On Monday morning, I showed up at Helios Labs at 8 a.m. sharp. Dr. Winters had a new project ready, something involving modular cryogenic systems for field research. It was challenging, innovative, exactly the kind of problem I loved solving. At 10 a.m., my bank account received a wire transfer for $75,000 from Crestview Biotech. At 10:30, I received an email from Catherine Frost. Subject: thank you. Body: Ms. Blake, on behalf of the board and the research staff, thank you for your assistance this weekend. You saved years of irreplaceable work. I've also wanted to inform you that we've implemented new policies regarding executive conduct and staff training. What happened to you will not happen again. While I understand you won't return to Crestview, please know that you'll always be welcome here. Best regards, Catherine Frost. I read it twice, then filed it away. At 11, Derek called. I heard you got paid. I did. They're going to need ongoing consultation. The contractor says your systems are too complex for standard maintenance. Then they can hire me as an independent consultant. My rate is $2,000 an hour, minimum 5 hours per visit, and I'm only available once a month. He laughed. That's steep. That's the price of disrespect. Take it or leave it. I'll pass it along. 2 days later, I received a formal consulting contract from Crestview's legal department. Everything I'd specified, plus expenses and a clause requiring all interactions to go through Derek or Catherine only. I signed it. Not because I needed the money. Not because I forgave Justin or forgot what happened. But because I'd built something extraordinary and I could profit from it on my own terms. Over the following months, I consulted for Crestview once a month while building the Helios facility from the ground up. The new lab was 3 times the size of Crestview's operation, with systems so advanced they made my previous work look primitive. Dr. Winters gave me complete creative freedom. Her staff treated me like the expert I was. No one snapped their fingers. No one confused me with IT support. 6 months after I was fired, I was standing in the completed Helios facility, watching the grand opening ceremony. Researchers were giving tours, explaining their work, showing off the climate-controlled environments that would house the next generation of genomics research. Dr. Winters found me in the control room looking at the monitoring screens. You did it, she said quietly. We did it. No, Madison. This was your vision. We just gave you the space to build it. I smiled. Thank you for that. I should be thanking you. Do you know how many recruitment calls I've gotten since word spread about this facility? Every biotech company in the country wants to know who designed it. Good for business. And good for you. Your consulting firm is going to do very well. He was right. Within a year, I had contracts with 6 different research facilities. My rate had increased to $5,000 an hour. I was selective about clients, working only with organizations that respected expertise and treated their staff well. I heard through Derek that Justin Wade never worked in biotech again. Last I knew, he was at some startup in California, using his uncle's connections to stay employed. Ronald had stepped back from active management, leaving Crestview in the hands of actual professionals. The contractor I'd worked with that Saturday eventually became the permanent facilities director. He'd call me occasionally with questions about the systems. Always polite, always respectful, always willing to pay my rate. Sometimes I'd drive past the Crestview building on my way to other jobs. The windows were dark except for the labs, where researchers worked late into the night. The cooling systems hummed along, stable and efficient, running on protocols I'd written. I'd never go back there as an employee. But my work remained, a permanent reminder that expertise matters, that respect matters, and that the people you dismiss as unimportant might be the only thing holding your world together. While you're here, answer this in the comments. Do you think Justin ever understood what he'd cost his uncle's company? 2 years after I was fired, I was at a biotech conference in Chicago. I was on a panel discussing advanced climate control systems, fielding questions from engineers and facility directors, when I noticed someone standing at the back of the room. Justin Wade. He looked different. Thinner, tired, wearing a regular suit instead of designer clothes. He stayed through the whole presentation, then waited until everyone else had left. Madison. I was packing up my laptop. Didn't look up. Justin. I didn't know you'd be speaking here. It was on the schedule. Right. He shifted his weight, uncomfortable. You were great up there. That stuff about integrated monitoring systems, it's really impressive. Thank you. Silence stretched between us. Look, I know I screwed up. What I did to you, it was inexcusable. I was arrogant and stupid, and I didn't understand what you did or how important you were. I cost my uncle millions of dollars and almost destroyed years of research because I couldn't be bothered to learn people's actual jobs. I've thought about it every day since. I finally looked at him. He meant it. I could see it in his face, the genuine regret. I'm glad you learned something, I said quietly. I wanted to apologize. I should have done it 2 years ago. Yes, you should have. I know it doesn't fix anything. No, it doesn't. He nodded slowly. You built something really special at Crestview. I didn't understand that then. I do now. I've built better things since. I believe it. He started to leave, then turned back. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I really am. I watched him walk away, disappearing into the conference crowd. I felt something. Not forgiveness exactly, but maybe closure. He'd learned. Maybe not fast enough, maybe not before causing damage, but he'd learned. I finished packing my equipment and headed to my next appointment. Because here's the thing about being good at what you do, about being an expert in a specialized field that most people don't understand. Someone will always underestimate you. Someone will always assume that because they don't understand your work, it must not be important. And when those people are in positions of power, when they can fire you or dismiss you or treat you like you're disposable, it's tempting to let anger consume everything. But anger isn't what wins. Competence wins. Expertise wins. Building things so complex and essential that they can't function without you, that's what wins. I didn't destroy Crestview Biotech out of spite. I simply removed my expertise and let reality teach the lesson I couldn't. The cooling systems failed because they were built to my specifications and required my knowledge to maintain. The samples degraded because the protocols I'd designed weren't simple enough for someone else to implement on short notice. The building fell apart because I'd been holding it together and they hadn't noticed. That's not revenge. That's just the natural consequence of treating essential people as if they're invisible. These days I run my own consulting firm. 12 employees, all of them specialists, all of them treated with respect and paid what they're worth. We work with research facilities across the country, designing climate control systems that push the boundaries of what's possible. Every contract I sign includes a clause requiring clients to acknowledge the specialized nature of the work and commit to appropriate treatment of technical staff. It's not legally necessary, but it's a reminder. A statement. This is what I do. This is what I'm worth. And if you can't respect that, we're not working together. I never saw Justin Wade again after that conference. But sometimes I wonder if he thinks about that day in the laboratory, when he snapped his fingers at someone he thought was tech support. I wonder if he remembers the cooling systems failing, the panic, the millions of dollars in research hanging in the balance. I wonder if he finally understands that the most important people in any organization are often the ones no one notices until they're gone. I hope he does. Because I'm not the only woman in tech who's been dismissed, underestimated, or treated like support staff when she's actually running the show. And every single one of us remembers. We remember the snapped fingers, the spilled coffee, the casual disrespect. We remember being fired for explaining our actual jobs. We remember being ignored until disaster struck. And when we leave, when we take our expertise to places that value it, we remember to build our systems exactly how we want them. Complex, essential, and utterly dependent on our knowledge. Not as revenge. Just as a reminder that some things can't be fixed by IT support. Some things require the person you should never have fired in the first place.